Ethiopia and Djibouti agreed to beef up bilateral cooperation in various areas. And a $1 million project launched for women and girls in Ethiopia. A very warm welcome to the news and many thanks for watching us with the news. I'm Shfarao Lako. Do stay with us. Now, Ethiopia and Djibouti have agreed to beef up their bilateral cooperation in various areas. The agreement was signed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Djiboutian President Ismail Omar Guelleh, who has completed his 2 days working visit to Ethiopia. Alula Teklamariam has more on that.
Ethiopia and Djibouti have a long shared history. They have thousands of things in common: culture, language, religion, and living style, among others, are the bond connecting Ethiopians with their Djiboutian brothers and sisters. Moreover, the two nations have been cooperatively working in the economic sector. The recent state visit by the Djiboutian President Ismail Omar Guelleh is meant to boost the long-standing cooperation. Djibouti Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mohammed Ali Hassan, explains about the latest agreements of the two nations.
Two leaders discussed all issues relating to bilateral cooperation. We discussed about the energy, we discussed about water, how to promote trade through upgrading the performance of the logistics, the ports, the road. You know, Djibouti and Ethiopia has very integrated economies. Sometimes we are also quoted as a role model. Today, the visit of the president was really very successful. He has been discussing all these issues with his brother, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed Ali. And I think that many things remain to be done, but generally speaking, it has been really very successful.
Meanwhile, Press Secretariat of the Prime Minister Office of Ethiopia, Bilene Suyum, underscored the effectiveness of the visit.
And part of that state visit is to strengthen bilateral relations between Ethiopia and Djibouti. As it's known, there has been long-standing relations, diplomatic relations, as well as cultural and historic ties between the people of Djibouti and the people of Ethiopia that spans almost a century. So part of these occasional meetings and these occasional interactions is to strengthen those relations. Both sides did raise the issue and the commitment to further strengthen the existing relations. They have talked about strengthening trade ties and the possibility of facilitating furthermore trade ties on what has already been undertaken thus far.
Finance Minister Ahmed Shidi also expresses optimism about the growing partnership of Ethiopia-Djibouti.
Both in terms of enhancing our road connectivity, in terms of building highways that connect with Djibouti corridor. In both sides, we have agreed on that one. We have also discussed in issues related to energy connectivity, and so the two leaders has also instructed us to work and speed up that. In addition to that, the water supply project which Djibouti has invested in Ethiopian territory, in eastern part of Ethiopia, in Somali region, it has some issues related to electricity connectivity. Prime Minister has gave direct authorization that we should urgently fix that one. And then the energy connectivity to this water supply project will enhance the water volume which is going to be harvested from the boreholes that will be transported via pipeline to Djibouti. This is a very unique project, the water supply project. It's transboundary water supply project for which Djibouti has invested and Ethiopia is hosting that investment.
Agreements was signed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Djiboutian President Ismail Omar Guelleh, who has completed his 2 days working visit to Ethiopia.
Professor Anne Fitzgerald says the indefinite humanitarian truce declared by the Ethiopian government is a positive step and shows government's commitment toward peace. However, HR 6600 and S 3199 bills undermine the government's initiative for peace, she has pronounced. Have a listen to this.
In an apparent move to ensure lasting solutions to internal problems, Ethiopia has declared humanitarian truce. So in your view, let me ask you this question. What are some of its implications in this regard? And what is your take on this latest move by the Ethiopian government?
It's a very positive move. It's even more positive that the TPLF has acknowledged that it intends to reciprocate as well. Time will tell how this all pans out. But peace is very important. Getting humanitarian access to the communities in need and ensuring that aid delivery goes to those communities and is distributed in an expeditious and a comprehensive way, all must be the priority at the moment.
The United States of America seems to be interested in what is going on in Ethiopia, especially now that the government has decided to put this humanitarian truce. So should the government of Ethiopia be wary of this, or should they take it at face value? What do you think?
We're all very positive. It showed that not just the United States of America, but Western partners like the United Kingdom, the European Union, and others were all coming together in recognizing that this was indeed a good thing. I think the question that I would pose about the United States' position on this at the moment and on Ethiopia more generally is what is happening with these two bills that are being pushed forward in both the House and the Senate. Because it seems to me that the positive encouragement to the government in its move towards peace and the country in its move towards peace could be very quickly undermined by the content and the intentions embraced by those two bills. So, I think we should take it generally as very positive in terms of the direction that the resolution, the gradual resolution to a long and unfortunate and tragic and unnecessary conflict is going in. But I think a lot hinges on these two bills that are being considered by both the House and the Senate in the United States at the moment.
In another development, in the name of stabilizing Ethiopia, some members of the U.S. Congress drafted bills of H.R. 6600 and S. 3199. And Communication Director of the Ethiopian Diaspora Agency, Wondosen Girma, underscores that the intention of some members of the U.S. Congress who proposed the bills shows that they want to control the government who runs the country. Shegawe Mata reports.
Sanctions are common methods imposed by the United States government on many countries across the world in the guise of bringing peace and democracy. Venezuela and Iran are among the countries sanctioned by the same country, but didn't bring any change to those countries, but only a suffering to the people. In the name of stabilizing Ethiopia, some members of the United States Congress drafted bills of H.R. 6600 and S.R. 3199. In an exclusive interview with ETV, Wondosen Girma, Communication Director of Ethiopian Diaspora Agency, underscored that the intention of some members of the United States Congress who proposed H.R. 6600 and S.R. 3199 is simply to control the government who runs the country and suffer Ethiopians.
When you look at the titles of the two draft bills, they talk about stability and democracy in Ethiopia. However, when we go deep dive into the contents of the bills, they do something else. They state something else. So, the two bills aspire to damage Ethiopia, not to stabilize or democratize it. For example, in the bills, it is stated that Ethiopia should be sanctioned economically, diplomatically, I would say, militarily.
Wondosen further stated that diaspora should reignite the normal movement to those draft bills, adding that the diaspora are taking a huge stake through calling to U.S. representatives, petition and rallies.
We are witnessing Ethiopian Americans making voice calls to their representatives, telling them that you don't have to support the two bills. They are against Ethiopia, the state of Ethiopia. It's against the existence of our country. So they are telling them now and again. So calling to the representatives is one issue. The other one is petitioning. So the diaspora is doing a lot of petition. We are seeing them moving around in the social media. So petitioning is another one. Rallies. So Ethiopians across the world clearly understand why those bills are there. So what they have to do to avert the ratification of those bills is reigniting the normal movement.
Last week, the U.S. envoy appreciated the recent developments happening in Ethiopia and stated the two draft bills are not the interest of his administration.
Well, dear viewers, let's now turn our attention to trending stories over the past 24 hours. And I'm joined here in the studio by my colleague Johannes Fantau to help us bring up to speed. Johannes, welcome.
Thank you, Shfarao.
So, can you walk us through some of your observations that you made over the past 24 hours?
Exactly, Shfi. I have 2 points to present here now. The first is the review of different media outlets about the Ethiopian Airlines chief, which is Tewolde ገብረማርያም. And in the review, they have explored that Tewolde ገብረማርያም was very successful in making the airlines, which is a huge airline in Africa and also in the world. Yeah. They quoted that at his time of leading the airlines, he has very successful in 2 general points. The first one is at implementing strategic plans for the development of the company, and also Mr. Tewolde was also successful in crisis management. Regarding to the first one, which is implementing strategic plans, after he took the position in 2011, Tewolde ገብረማርያም posted or bring a 15 years strategic plan which may last in 2025. So the very important, the very big issue of this strategic plan, this 15 years strategic plan, was in order to bring the airlines competent in the world huge market of aircraft. So and the different media outlets reviewed that Tewolde was successful in bringing the company with development or with a huge success. And then the second one is he was also successful in crisis management. As you recall, Shfarao, especially the crisis related to the 737 MAX in 2019 and the crisis related to COVID-19. It's very big crisis, but the management, which is led by Tewolde ገብረማርያም, has solutions in order to resolve this crisis and to help the company to continue its success. So the different media outlets have advanced, or they said the company was proud of his way of leading, his management about Tewolde ገብረማርያም. So they believe this will continue with the coming or with the new chief. This is the first one. The second one is about the visit of the Djiboutian President Ismail Omar Guelleh. Last day or yesterday, Djibouti's President Ismail Omar Guelleh visited Ethiopia for 2 days, and Dr. Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, welcomed him, and the two countries talked, or Dr. Abiy and President Ismail Omar Guelleh talked about the bilateral relations of the two countries, especially related to increasing or strengthening the multifaceted cooperation between the two countries in sectors related to strengthening the economic ties of the two countries by strengthening or by promoting trade and agricultural investment. And also they have talked about scale up joint infrastructural development. As you know, Shife, Djibouti is a very near to or a border sharing country to Ethiopia, and both the leaders also talk about increasing or strengthening the tourism and energy sector in order to cooperate with the tourism and energy sectors. So this will help both countries to develop for the mutual benefit of the two countries. These are the 2 points I have brought to this training. So
Okay, thank you so much, Jonas, for your ideas.
thank you, Farah.
የጅማ አይከን የሆነው አባ ጅፋር አደባባይ እዛ እገኛለሁ። እቺኛዋ የምታዩት የመጀመሪያው ቆንጆዋ በሬዱ ጅማ የሆነች አንድ ጀርመናዊ ወዷት አግብቷት ጀርመን የወሰዳት ልጅ
Welcome back. You're still watching Addis News Hour. Now, moving on, the Embassy of Japan in Ethiopia and UNFPA launched a $1 million project to improve health and protection needs of women and adolescent girls. The project, which is entitled Addressing Gender-Based Violence and Sexual and Reproductive Health, will be implemented in selected conflict and COVID-19 affected districts of the Amhara and Benishangul Gumuz regions for a year. Johannes Fantan reports.
We are accountable for 4 outputs, especially for GBB, working on the service provision is not enough.
Gender-based violence and reproductive health problems have been major concerns in Ethiopia as a result of the war in the north and COVID-19. Evidence suggests men and girls were particularly vulnerable to sexual assaults, and the destruction of medical facilities made the situation sophisticated. UNFPA, which focuses on gender-based violence and reproductive health, along with the Japanese embassy to Ethiopia, has launched a $1 million project to support 80,000 women and girls into war-torn regions in Ethiopia.
The project we are launching today, entitled Addressing Gender-Based Violence and Sexual and Reproductive Health, will reach to the most vulnerable people affected by conflict and COVID-19 in selected districts in the Amhara and Benishangul Gumuz regions. We will be targeting 80,000 women, girls, boys, and men in this one-year project to provide life-saving information and services on sexual and reproductive health and gender-based violence. The project support is critical in contributing to the current efforts by the government of Ethiopia to restore the health system damaged by conflicts and affected by COVID-19.
Japanese ambassador to Ethiopia, Eto Takako, said the project will be implemented for 1 year to prevent violence and support for women, especially in the Amhara and Benishangul Gumuz regions.
Both Amhara and Benishangul Gumuz regions have experienced an influx of IDPs and severe damage to health facilities, and the situation has been further worsened as a result of the conflict in the north. In particular, there is an urgent need of emergency assistance as a countermeasure to an increase in the maternal mortality and morbidity rates, unintended pregnancy, early marriage, sexually transmitted infections, and GVV in both regions. Under these circumstances, Japan has agreed to provide grant aid of approximately $1 million to UNFPA in order to increase access to and availability of the quality, gender-based violence, and SRH information and services for vulnerable women, girls, adolescents, and youth.
Officials from the Embassy of Japan, the Ministry of Health, regional and zonal various government agencies are participated in the program.
The project, which is launched today here in Sheraton Addis by the cooperation of the Japanese government embassy to Ethiopia and the UNFPA, is aimed to help more than 80,000 women and girls, especially with the war-affected areas of Ethiopia in Amhara region and Benshangul Gumuz region. And the project is aimed to improve and eliminate gender-based violences and in order to increase reproductive health in the coming 1 year here in Ethiopia. I'm Johannes Fantahun for EBC.
Now, Ethiopia and Tanzania have signed an agreement to work together on military issues. The agreement was signed by Lieutenant General Alamshet Degefe, head of the Mechanized Coordination Department of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and Lieutenant General Mase Mikungul, Army Chief of Staff of the Tanzanian Defense Force. The agreement will enhance the cooperation between Ethiopia and Tanzania in the military sector, it was noted. The bilateral agreement will also have a significant impact on the development of peace and security in the country and the region. And in business, the Brazilian ambassador to Ethiopia, Luis Eduardo, says her country and Ethiopia are committed to maintaining their bilateral cooperation in agricultural development. Talking to the Addis Media Network, the ambassador expressed his country's desire to expand its cooperation with Ethiopia in various areas. Jerusalem Batsi has more.
Celebrated 70 years of bilateral relations.
Talking to the Addis Media Network, the Brazilian ambassador to Ethiopia, Luis Eduardo, reiterated the historical bilateral ties of the two countries through remembering the official visit to Brazil by Emperor Haile Selassie in 1960.
Addis Ababa being the diplomatic capital of Africa, it really makes sense to be present here, and not only in terms of the African Union, but the bilateral relations as well. I mean, since 1951, we didn't have so many visits on both sides, but we did have. Emperor Haile Selassie was in Brazil in 1960. We already had 2 or 3 presidents that came here during those years. So the idea is to always keep on improving and getting closer between the two countries.
According to the ambassador, both countries have been cooperating in many areas, mainly in agriculture. Particularly, Brazilian companies have been engaging in forest management, correction of the acidity of soil, coffee and cotton development.
In terms of cooperation, we are mainly cooperating in agriculture. The first program that we had was forest management, and then more or less at the same time, those two programs, they date roughly 10 years. The other one is on correction of the acidity of the soil. Actually, the soil in a big part of Ethiopia is very similar to the one in central Brazil. So with the experience that there's a Brazilian company, it's a state-owned company that works with the development of agriculture. It's Embrapa, it's the name. Apart from that, we do have other programs also in agriculture, such as cotton, the development of cotton agriculture here. We do also, we're starting into coffee as well, as Brazil is the biggest product, and Ethiopia, is the birth of the coffee, so it's more than natural that both countries would cooperate into this field of cooperation.
The ambassador also appreciates the Ethiopian Airlines' relentless contribution in strengthening commercial relations of the two countries, as well as in transporting thousands of Brazilians to their country during COVID-19. That's why his embassy bestowed on Ethiopian Airlines executives, including former Ethiopian CEO Tolde Gebramariam, for their great jobs last week.
As Ethiopian Airlines was really instrumental to Brazil during the pandemic. Well, as it never stopped flying, there was always a flux of passengers between the two countries. Roughly, Brazil had around 29,000 people abroad when the pandemic started. So we had to bring back those 29,000 people to Brazil. Roughly 1/10 of them came through Bole International Airport. So they were instrumental in bringing back many Brazilians home. And then also with the cargo division, the cargo division was also essential to bring medicines, hospital equipment, ventilators, masks, everything that we all saw during those 2 years. Ethiopian Airlines brought not only to Brazil, but to South America as a whole. So we're paying an homage to Ethiopian Airlines because they really were instrumental during those now more than 2 years of the pandemic.
You're still watching our Disney News Hour, and I'll be right back after this foreign currency exchange rate.
Egypt.
Nothing compares to the awe-inspiring wonder that you feel when you first see the Giza pyramids.
We're at the pyramids of Giza!
Lots of questions go up to your head. The pyramid was built from the inside out.
They only worked 3 months out of the year, so it took 20 years to build this. And 46 meters high.
Wow. Just look at how tall these stones are. One stone is almost as tall as me. Almost as tall as me.
Even though these pyramids have stood here for millennia, so much is left unknown. So the entrance to the tomb. There's 2 entrances. The top one is closed.
That's more on that from CGTN Africa.
The ongoing drought in Somalia has not only impacted on the lives of people and livestock on agriculture production. The price of fruit has changed in the past 1 year significantly. Amir Suleiman, a regular customer this outlet, Nizam Sale Junction, he says the value of agricultural products have sold.
I have been a regular customer here since this outlet opened. I have witnessed significant increase in the prices of fruits and vegetables in recent past, but not only here, but across the city. We are approaching the holy month of Ramadan, and we hope for its blessings.
The price of products have increased approximately 30%. The management of the mall, one of the biggest in the country, says they have no option but to import some agricultural products.
The rivers for irrigation have dried up, and therefore there are a few vegetable harvests. For that reason, we have been forced to import agricultural products from outside, especially from the neighboring states, to fill the gap.
The farmers from Somali's rich agricultural regions of Shabelle, which is a country's breadbasket, are paying the price of the expensive lack of rain, according to aid agencies. More than 500,000 of people, mostly farmers, have left their rural homes in search of food and water.